I am here with future scientist Marissa Esteban. So the reason why I decided to reach out to Marissa is actually because we had an interesting text conversation about this topic. And so, Marissa, can you give me a little bit of a background of what we were talking about and the programs that you're applying to that DOGE is affecting?
Yes, this is actually not the DOE. This is something from the NIH, the National Institute of Health. But I studied computer science in school, uh, and I'm really looking for a career within research because I'm super passionate about leveraging computation within the context of biology. But before I want to go to grad school, I'm really looking to explore what that looks like for me. And so the pathway for me has really been applying to independent labs within research institutions or academic research institutions or medical facilities, things like that. And also applying to post-baccalaureate research programs. And some of these post-bac programs are actually funded by the NIH. Um, However, a few of them or a handful of them have actually either paused or canceled their programs. And the information that was given to me as a student or as an applicant has really just been either kind of not fully explaining their budget cuts, but kind of implying that. And then also some of them have blatantly said they haven't received funding from the NIH or they haven't been granted access to that funding. So some of these programs are actually still going through the application process, but aren't going to send offer letters to their finalists until they are able to fully secure either their funding from the NIH or find internal funding through their own institutions.
Right, and I think so many people are in this space of the in-between of not really knowing what is going to happen.
Yeah.
In this space and also in jobs, what do you think, how do you think this is going to affect future students and future opportunities in research without this funding?
I think that that looks like a really sad future. I think these sorts of programs are so informative and pivotal for a career within a developing scientist's path towards science. Because I mean, I know this for myself. I participated in a program that was actually funded by the NSF, the National Science Foundation, which is also through the government. This one is not, this one is a different agency, I suppose. But that was extremely informative for me as a scientist to learn about what do I want to do? Like, this isn't something that I am fully able to do within my academic institution. So I don't have access to those sorts of opportunities internally within my education or within my classes. So knowing what that looks like for me and being able to participate in these sorts of programs is huge. And I think that's huge for a ton of scientists. I know that my academic and research advisor, this is something that he participated in, and this is why he's a professor. He went in to do research. And I believe that that's the same for a lot of students. So it's a really big deal because I think a lot of people might give up on that dream because it's scary. They don't have an opportunity to be able to step into the lab and think about what what their passions can look like within research. So not being able to kind of have that stepping stone, I think might inhibit a lot of people towards pursuing that path.
And I know, since we know each other very personally, I know that this is something that you want to do, and I know that this isn't inhibiting you, but I'm sure it's much harder. Can you talk a little bit about the application system? And I know you had mentioned that maybe, what did you say, like three programs have canceled. What does that look like? Like, what would a typical applicant have access to, and what is happening to you right now specifically?
Sure. So what I've been doing is actually, I just go on Google and I look up post-baccalaureate research programs and find the ones that look like they um, might fit what I want to do. I also look at the labs that they offer, the research mentors, and make sure that there's like a really good fit for me on both sides, that they want someone who's doing computation, and it's a mutual kind of like pick and choose. But so I look for research programs. There's actually a list of programs that the NIH supports. So these are institutions that are actually applying for something called an R25 grant. And what these grants do is support structured research programs for students. So they're not supporting individual labs, they're supporting full programs that these academic or research institutions actually have to apply for. So I'm assuming that these programs that I'm applying for have definitely gone through their own internal application for
Hmm.
providing these programs um, before they're able to open that up to students. So the NIH, again, they have a list. I actually can't find it on the NIH website anymore. So that's interesting. But
Were you able to find it before?
that's how I found all my
Oh,
programs.
okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
So the NIH has a list of research programs that they support, they've funded. Um, and I just kind of click through them. I pick and choose which ones I want to apply to. And then an application basically just looks like a personal statement, my research desires, what I want to do, what I want to get out of a program, kind of like what you would expect. And then also these particular programs by the NIH, I don't know if this has anything to do with funding or anything, but they are particularly designed to give greater access to students who identify as people who are underrepresented within science.
Hmm.
So there's also a statement of diversity within most of these applications. So like two to three essays, and then just, your information and experiences and things like that. And then once you send that application in, some of them have actually already gotten back to me. So it's been about a month and I've heard back from a few. So kind of just it's almost as if you're applying to school, but then there's also interviews involved. So that's kind of the timeline that I'm in right now, is going through those interviews.
And have you noticed any other maybe discrepancies, like you just said about the list thing? Anything else that may have been affected by this new admin and their decisions?
Yes. So a lot of the application, so as an applicant, you have all of the information that you need, what type of materials to send, a list of the mentors, a description of the research program, things like that. They also include normally a link to actually define what it means to be an underrepresented group within science. And this is a link that links back to the NIH's description of underrepresented groups within science. And this actually does not exist anymore. So if I click on that link for all of the programs, it goes back to nothing. And if you look it up on the internet, it also does not exist within the NIH's
Wow.
um, system. If you look it up, you can find it described, but it's a secondary source.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and for answering my questions at 8 a.m. We'll have to touch base again or maybe connect later and see what has happened with your future and the future of the NIH. I know that it may go to the courts as well. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Abby.